So we are moving through the 42 Confessions of Maat. And so over the next 42 days, we are going to be looking at the 42 Laws of Maat, or the 42 Confessions of Maat, and we are going to be doing readings on how to move through them so that we too can have our heart as light as a feather. And so the belief around the laws of Ma'at is as the body is dying, as the body is transitioning, as the body is expiring, as the body is transforming, according to the Egyptians, there was a process that the soul had to go through before going on to the afterlife. So basically, the body would be the person's soul, the person's heart would be weighed on, there's one scale and they would put the heart, there's another scale and they would put a scale. And basically your heart has to be lighter than the feather. And if the heart is not lighter than the feather, then you're gonna get chomped up and you're not going over to the other world. Okay, it's just not happening for you. Okay. But obviously if your heart was, then you would be escorted to the next part of life. All right. And so part of making your heart light, or keeping your heart light, was keeping these 42 laws. Okay. And so we are going to move through that because well, first of all, it was just dropped on me to do just based on some meditations that I was doing this morning. But also in these times that we're in, it is important to keep our hearts light. Okay, to keep our hearts light so that we can stay on our mission, so that we can stay on track, so that we can fulfill our soul's destiny. All right. All right. So the first card for the first day, the first law is I have not done inequity or iniquity. And so iniquity is being immoral. It is it could be thought of as sin, to go in the wrong direction, to commit injustice. All right. So that's day one. So this is day one. So the deity here to help us deal with this is Horus. Now, many of us have the Eye of Horus. We work with the Eye of Horus. Maybe we have it tattooed on our body, as I did in the 90s, or we have it in our home somewhere. But the Eye of Horus, often looked at as a symbol of health and healing and power, right? A lot of us are familiar with that. Horus is the falcon-headed god. I should also say this is inspired by my work with the goddess Aset. Aset is her Kemetic name. Kemet is the original name of Egypt. The Greeks changed it to Isis. We will not be using the name Isis, even though I did grow up in a secret society. Hey, full disclosure. One of the Masonic orders that I grew up in was the Daughters of Isis, and I was in the Isis Sorettes. However, I did not remember any of this until I was in my 20s. Even though I was in the Isis Sorettes until I was 16 years old, where we had a formal cotillion, a formal introduction to society. So I went through that. And when that was over, I was done with being in that group, because at that time I did not see the value in it. Also, I didn't understand what was going on, and so so I grew up around this magic that I had no idea about, which is a whole other story in itself. So like, even though I had no idea about this, I got an Ankh tattooed on my back in 1993. And then when I moved to Atlanta, I got the Eye of Horus tattooed on my back in like 1996 or so. So I was like having all of these Egyptian influences, and I had no remembrance at all that I had grown up in this secret society. So I feel like when I sort of left, because my parents weren't really one to force me to do anything. And so basically, they were like, just go through the cotillion and then basically you're free to do what you want. But because my family was very high up in it, my grandparents were they both went to the top And they were in several orders. They weren't just in the Daughters of Isis. They were in the Prince Hall. They were in they were in like 6 different secret societies. And so, yeah. So my mother was just like, do this for your grandmother, because my grandmother had gotten diagnosed with breast cancer. And so, you know, she was transitioning. And so my mother was like, do this for your grandmother. And then again, you're free. You're free to do what you want. So I feel like once I was done, like low key, they must have stripped my mind or something, because I literally did not remember. I mean, I marched in the parades. There's pictures of me. I was a mascot. Like, it's crazy. And I did not remember anything until I was watching the Discovery Channel after I had moved to Atlanta. So I was like 23 years old, and I watched the Discovery Channel, and they had something on secret societies and the Masons. And I literally called my mother and I was like, hey girl, why you ain't tell me we was in a secret society? And she just started laughing, and she was like, girl, you crazy. And also I used to, quote unquote, run lines with my grandfather because I have a really good memory. And so when he would be practicing his rituals or whatever, the things that he would have to say, he would run his lines with me as a little kid. So here's Horus. So more on Horus. Horus is about stability and equilibrium. And so I share that story with you because this is going to be a very interesting journey down the Nile that we're going to take together. Because my mother was in this order, when she died, I saw 3 falcons. But because the mind erasing, I couldn't understand why I saw 3 falcons the day she died. Until later on, I was like going over this with one of my friends, and they were like, oh yeah, the falcon is Isis. And then I was like, holy shit. Like, I was in the Daughters of, like, I was an Isis Surette. So literally, so my mom, like, sent 3 falcons the day she died. And I mean, I was like talking with friends like that whole day about this phenomenon. And then, yeah, somebody was like, yeah, you remember the Isis, the falcon? Because I think they were Googling the falcon, and it was like, oh, associated with Isis. And that's when it clicked. I was like, oh my God, my mom sent 3 falcons the day she died. So wild. The first one, I was on the phone with my friend Diane, and she was telling me that I was at the car dealer, and she was like, hey, your mom came to visit me last night in a dream. And I was like, girl, what? And so that's when I kind of knew my mom was going to pass, because the dead always go to her. And so she gave me the message that my mom gave her. And as she's giving me the message, a falcon flies in front of my face. And I was like, girl, a falcon just flew in front of my face. And she was like, what? That was the first one. Then the second one, I went to hospice, and I basically said to my mom, hey, I heard you were visiting people last night. And I just was like relaying back what I had heard. And basically I told my mom it was my pleasure to be with her as she was dying and to take care of her and blah, 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 blah. And then she died like 15 minutes later. So when the what they call it, the hearse, the funeral home came to pick up her body, and I was pulling out of the rehab facility or the hospice, whatever that she was in, girl, a falcon was on the lawn eating prey. And so then I took out I actually have video. I might share that video. Yeah. So now I was recording, because now I'm like paying attention. So I'm recording, and that falcon went up to the top of a light post. So I recorded it. And then I went to go get some food to eat, and I saw a falcon on the highway. 3 falcons the day my mom died. And we're talking within a 4-hour period. Okay. So I'm saying that to say that Horus showing up as the first Oh, by the way, my first cat's name was Horace, after Horace. Um, so for Horus to show up as the first sort of guide on this 42-day journey that we're taking together is like, yeah, I feel like my mom is here, like Horus is here, like it is all divine, it is all meant to be. I also wanted to just share a little bit of myself with you all because I don't really share that much on the socials for lots of reasons, but that's changing. So Horus is here to talk about stability and equilibrium, and this was in reverse. So what this tells me is the reasons why we fall, why we tumble into iniquity, lies, deception, deceit, and injustice is because we are lacking an internal level of stability and equilibrium, aka we are out of balance. Of course we are. And there's lots of reasons why we're out of balance. But the way to lighten our heart is by bringing stability into our life and having a sense of equilibrium. And it's also the number 9. Come on, Horus. Come on, divine lineage. Come on. Okay. So it says, he is represented as a hawk or a hawk-headed man. His name means the distant one. The falcon with its majestic soaring and swooping in the sky. During a confrontation with the god Seth, Horus lost his left eye, which was healed by the god Thoth. The eye was given the name the Eye of Horus. There's also something very alchemical here for me too. And alchemy is also, it is a language of Kemet. Okay, and it is about transformation, taking one thing and changing it to another. And so having the ability to transform, and we're going to talk about where we're going to transform in a minute, stepping into the alchemical process. I'm hearing alchemizing your soul, alchemizing your spirit, alchemizing your energy is going to be a key to lightening your heart, to softening, okay? Because Thoth switched that thing, right? It turned it into a form of healing, right? No weapon formed against me shall prosper. Like what was meant for my harm is only going to be transmuted into gold, which is why we don't do return to sender spells anymore. We do transmutation work. He embodies universal order and harmony. So bringing order into our lives is going to give us a sense of stability. So the message here is, it is Monday, it is moon day, so emotions might be high. So look around and see where you're out of order. Or close your eyes and breathe in and let your spirit tell you where you're out of order. Okay? And maybe ask, how can I bring more harmony into my life? Right? So keying into where you're out of order and then key into where you're out of harmony. Put your trust in the god Horus because everything will turn out fine. As with the albeit painful loss of false friends, on the physical, so that's the other instruction. You're out of here. On the physical plane, you will be wrapped in harmony. His presence advises you to show more awareness in the way you pay attention to your life. So we've already talked about that. Where you're out of order, how to bring harmony, letting go of false friends is number 2. Alchemize, and this is how you alchemize your life, by doing these 2 things, all right? He helps you to transform all things from inferior to a superior level. Here, so we've got 3 things to do. 3 things that will sort of alchemize your energy and alchemize your life. And so the third thing is the 8 of Cups here. Okay? Walking away from painful situations. Cleansing, because we have cups and cups is water. So perhaps when you're in the shower, when you're in the bath, asking your spirit guides, or even asking your higher self if you don't work with spirit guides, or if you believe in a god, goddess, whatever, ask them to use that water to purify you of harsh emotions, of heavy energies, of low vibrational energies. You could even throw some salt in there and kind of put some salt over your body if you're not, if your body can take that. Like some people can't do salt baths and stuff like that. But if you can, bringing some sea salt into the equation, yeah, to cleanse the heavy energy. And the symbol here that we have is the horse. And the horse is all about power, the horse is all about movement, and the horse is all about mobility. And what this feels like to me is move now. Move now. Gallop away from these heavy energies now. Now, the other thing that's really interesting to me is that how Horus is looking at this figure. The eye is literally, check that out, looking at that figure. This is our guide. This is our guide. And so that is step one of, the 42 laws, the 42 confessions of Ma'at. I am Zoe Flowers, and drop down in the comments and let me know if you like this, if this made any sense to you at all, and I'll see you soon. Bye.